Hi all, and welcome back to another episode of Efficio's Transforming Public Procurement Microcast series, where we're continuing to bring you key insights to help you better understand the new Procurement Act regulations. In this week's episode, I'm joined by Nell Parry, a consultant from our public sector practice, to talk all about planned procurement notices. Welcome, Nell. So what can you tell us about planned procurement notices? Are they replacing something similar in the old regs?
Hi, Jack. Thanks for having me. It's great to be on the series. So, yes, for those who are familiar with the old regs, you may have heard of prior information notices, or PINs for short. They're basically a signal to the wider market that the buyer has a specific upcoming commercial need. When published online, a PIN formally marks that a preliminary market consultation has begun. So, planned procurement notices and preliminary market engagement notices essentially replace PINs since the go live of the new Act.
Okay, great. That's clear and makes sense. So how exactly are they different from PINs?
So, much like PINs, planned procurement notices are an optional notice type buyers can use in the pre-procurement stage to provide advance notice of an upcoming procurement. They're designed to give as much notice to the market as possible. This means that planned procurement notices enable potentially interested suppliers to determine if an upcoming procurement is something that they might wish to bid for. This new notice type is intended to give suppliers more time to prepare for bidding, as they can be published any time between 40 days to 1 year before the publication of an official tender notice.
Okay, that's interesting. And how are they different from preliminary market engagement notices then?
Yes, that's a pretty common question. So, preliminary market engagement notices are similar to planned procurement notices in that they may be published by authorities in the pre-procurement period. However, unlike planned procurement notices, preliminary market engagement notices are used to mark the beginning of an active market consultation process. Buyers may also wish to publish only one of these two types of notice.
Okay, and what should you include in a planned procurement notice then?
So they should include as much information about the upcoming tender as is possible at the time of publishing. However, the Cabinet Office recognises that 12 months before a tender notice is released, a contracting authority may be unable to provide a full list of details. So, for this reason, contracting authorities are permitted to edit and update planned procurement notices throughout the pre-procurement period.
Okay, that seems like a sensible step. So lastly, what would you say are the key advantages and considerations of this notice?
So, given that the contracting authorities will be giving as much information as possible early on, in theory, this should offer suppliers extra time to get their team and business ready months before an upcoming tender. Also, by publishing a planned procurement notice and alerting the market early, buyers are permitted to reduce the length of the tendering period from 25 days or more to only 10 days or more. So we could see a far more streamlined process. One last point is that whilst planned procurement notices should be published when an authority intends to publish a tender notice, authorities are perfectly entitled to change their mind and are under no obligation to actually carry out the procurement. So they may end up procuring the contract via a dynamic market, which was discussed last week, or they may scrap the project altogether. So in those instances where they decide not to go forward with a procurement, it's good practice for them to publish a procurement termination notice.
Okay, thanks now. That was a really great overview of planned procurement notices and how they're evolved from the prior regs. And it sounds like some useful changes have been made there. I hope you've enjoyed today's microcast. As always, please do post any thoughts or questions in the chat and get in touch with Nell or myself for future topics you want to hear about. We'll see you all next week.